There have been so many tier lists out here that people have come up with. We're going to be looking at the top 5 decks that I feel are really the best ones on Master Duel. Be like the 33% of you that have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so we can get to 100k. We're going to be looking at the top 5 decks today of what I potentially feel are the best decks right now to kind of build and play on Master Duel. And the first one you're going to see up on your screen here is Virtual World. Now remember, this deck was a very scary creature when we had to deal with it here in the TCG. We cried so much because of True King of all Calamities. This is going to be the centerpiece of this, and especially in a one-on-one format where you can't necessarily bring in Lancias and other things to kind of counterpeg this deck. For a once per turn, detach material from this card, declare an attribute, all face-up monsters on the field become that attribute. Also monsters in your opponent's possession with that attribute cannot activate their effects. Alright, so what you have here is a deck that potentially revolves around this card. They're going to put this card on the field, they're going to stare at you, and you're going to be like, oh, okay. The good news is decks like Sky Striker have a little bit better of a matchup for this because they can just pop this thing, right? They don't have to deal with the BS that this card kind of generates here. And truthfully, for the most part, if you play against this and you get True King, you're not going to have a very fun time. There's a reason why I put this at number 1, because all of the Virtual World monsters up here between all of these are very consistent in the boards they can make. You're going to have to remember, in a format like this, you can adjust things a little bit more because it's currently one-on-one, so Lightning Storms, Harpy, Feather Dusters, to ensure that you can set up that board. But key cards for this deck will always revolve around Chuche and Quang Long here for setting up. Outside of that, doesn't matter what your deck does, it just has to be able to make True King of all Calamities to laugh at the opponent. Yeah, I really do think that this is probably by far the best deck across the board here, just in terms of raw power, devastation, and really how unfun this very fun dragon is to deal with. Gotta love VFD. Number 2 on our list here is actually going to be everybody's favorite Brigade. Now, Brigade has pretty much a lot going for it. This is one of the sample lists that I kind of grabbed out of public chat here. This particular build is revolving around Rescue Cat. You contribute off, set up your kits, and your Nervals here. Now, one other thing that I got to include into this is the Zodiac package is pretty much free to be played in this. And for those of you that don't know about Zodiac, well, let me tell you a great story here, ladies and gentlemen. Drytron is at 1. So not only can you stack up your pieces, making through Borbo, making through a Drytron. Any Zodiac monster, by the way, equals Drytron, alright, which is a free pop. And then after you pop off, you can go into the Borbo, swing directly, and you can make everybody's most unfun card in the entire game Mr. Zeus here for the free board wipe. Honestly, Zodiac Brigade is probably by far the best variant by a mile here. You can also play the Bird Up version, which revolves around the Lyrical Lisk. It's not too amazing in this game, if you want me to be honest with you guys. You have a lot of options. I mean, obviously, you have Assembled Robin that you can play, the Recital Starling package as well. But when you just have a full power Zodiac package available to you, I'd probably be way more concerned about building that variant. So this is just very much a sample version of the deck. If you were to play more of a standardized version, and then when you start to go more expert mode here, obviously push for the insanity that is the Zodiac variant. Because like I said, when you can play Zeus and Drytron in the exact same deck, you're going to turn a lot of heads, and a lot of players are going to be very upsetty spaghetti with you. Alright, now I really debated on this one, and number 3 in the meta, I'm putting this at number 3 because of popularity. This is Sky Striker. Now, this is very much just a sample list. And remember, in a format where you don't have siding available to you, Sky Striker has to decide what utilities and what outlets that this deck is going to want to have kind of mess around with. And you have other like key cards in this game. Don't get me wrong, like Praying Kids are very powerful, but I looked and built this list strictly off of what we've seen so far in terms of representation, just what genuinely felt very powerful. And you would be surprised by the amount of players that took a look at Double Engage here and said, this is the deck that I want to play. And I don't blame the player base for having that mentality. It's not necessarily incorrect at the end of the day here. Now, with that being said, how good is Sky Striker? I would say that this deck probably runs the line at 1.5. It does have some bad matchups against fully established boards, and once you start pushing on into the higher tiers here, you're going to start to run into those, oh, well, can I break their board? If you can go second all day long and produce Pankratops to break those boards, I feel like you have a fantastic matchup. If you can draw Max C against these huge board-producing decks, oh, you should be in a good position. How many times out of 10? A lot, all right? This deck is one of the most consistent creatures in modern era Yu-Gi-Oh, ladies and gentlemen, and I would say that you can put this anywhere from top 7 to really up to 3rd place. It's really just up to you in terms of your deck building, how you want to build your toolbox, and just kind of go from there, and how rounded out your choices carry you for your day. All right, next up on our list here at number 4, I have to put Drytron. Now, the problem with this deck is Max C does exist. We're not gonna knock that, but here's the thing. This deck has something that the TCG wishes that we could have, and it's triple Ben 10. Now, really, what does Ben 10 do for this deck at the end of the day? Well, 95% of the builds out here that want to do things, and one thing that this build is not doing is the little vanities / interaction with this. Vanity's rule here is a fairy monster, ladies and gentlemen. The oldest thing that we were seeing that a lot of the decks were doing back in the day was they would be ending on the Vanity's ruler with the Herald of Ultimateness. Now, because all of your pieces are effectively free here, right? You can produce 2 tribute fodders to establish a Vanities that you can search for off of your multiple stack of Ben 10s. All right, and I think that's the thing that once you see this deck kind of develop a little bit more, the problem is this deck has a much higher skill ceiling. You have the Union Carrier here, which automatically just makes this deck 85 times more consistent than it ever actually should be. All right, so when you have a deck that can Union Carrier, set up a field, you can produce a Vanities Ruler, you can do your thing. You have triple Ben 10 to get you to your ending board of, oh, I have 6 negates, ladies and gentlemen. Oh no, what are you gonna do? Oh, just kidding. And Ava just resolved. All right, there's a lot to kind of unpack with this deck, and like I said, I think the skill curve on this deck is much higher than the current player base really wants to know. But if you're somebody out here that's an expert with this deck, you should be able to carry yourself all the way to that top tier, no problem, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me when I say this deck is one of the scariest that you can actually run into on the ladder. Yeah, you can max C this, sure, but I mean, if you don't have an out to Vanity's Ruler / Ultimateness, what's it matter? And then number 5, I put this on here just because of the 1-out-of-1 interactions. Now, in a 1-out-of-1 format where I can have triple skill drain, I can have Inspector Border, floodgates are a very, very real thing, ladies and gentlemen. Especially in a deck like Eldritch here that, okay, Eld lands at 2. Alright, you have to remember, 1-out-of-1 format means that we're in a different point in the game's history. We can't side counterpick for this. So if this deck just shows up all day long and grinds your opponent out because you have a skill drain, it doesn't matter what your strategy does. It gets blown out. Alright, Virtual World against set 5 with this, I mean, Very Fun Dragon doesn't really matter all that much because you got Jaguaros and Conks running around. I mean, you just set up one wall off of a Scarlet Sanguine and you're effectively good to go. It's kind of the same logic that people are like, well, Altergeist has to be good, right? I just think genuinely that a good grindy deck like this is going to be one of your better outlets just strictly for the grinding purpose because this stupid card exists right here. So with that being said, those are my thoughts right now for top 5 in Master Duel. Yes, I know I haven't mentioned Praying Kids. Yes, I know I haven't mentioned Dragon Maids. I'm going to explain that in the next video here. We kind of go into lower tier 1 here, because just because they're not the best decks in the top 5, that doesn't mean that they're not decks that you really need to be scared and worried about at the end of the day. All right, Rogue will do that to you. So guys, please leave a comment down below. Make sure you guys smash that little crap out of that subscribe button. You guys don't miss out on more awesome content, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later on the day with some more cool awesome content. Peace out, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.